Well, I have to tell you a home teaching story. You remember back when we did the home teaching instead of ministering? Well, I had a wonderful home teaching beat. I call it a beat. And we had a little old retired couple that had just got back from a mission. They lived in a mobile home park in a relatively old mobile home. They had given all they had to get on that mission, and they were glad that they had the opportunity to serve. Now they were home and they were in their mobile home and they were settled down. We went in there. We'd been there a couple of times before, and we went in there and sat down. And my companion's turn. It was my companion's turn to give the lesson, and he gave a stellar lesson. And when we got through, why the lady was kind of wore the pants in the family. The gentleman, nice guy, but he wasn't one to call on people to say prayers or anything like that. He just kind of sat back in the background. And when she said jump, all he said was how high. And that's the way they function. But anyway, she turned to me and asked if I'd give a closing prayer. And so I gave a closing prayer, and it was probably very similar to 1,000 other personal home teaching closing prayers, very simple. When I got through, she said, "Oh, Brother Dowling, oh, that was the most flowery prayer I've ever heard. You prayed for everything but the kitchen sink." And everybody laughed. And we thought nothing of it. We went and shook hands and walked out the door. My companion and I got in the car and I drove him home. On the way home, I started thinking, what is wrong with her kitchen sink? I said it once while my companion was there, and he said, "That's just a saying, it's just a joke." I said, "Oh, yeah, probably." And I got about halfway home, and I kept thinking, what is wrong with her kitchen sink? It really bothered me. So I just decided, no, I've got to find out. I turned that car around and I drove back. And that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was going to the door and knocking on it, knowing that this was probably a joke, but the Spirit just leaned on me. And I had to find out. I knocked on the door. And the little old man came to the door, and he had a bald head, and he was a nice old gentleman. But I looked at him, and the first thing I said was, "What's wrong with your kitchen sink?" And he went red right from his neck, right over his chin, up over his nose, up over his bald head, and down to the nape of his neck. And he didn't say a word. He just sat there and stared at me. And finally, she showed up behind him, and she said, "Okay, Brother Dowley, if you have to see it, come on." So I walked in there, and she took me to the sink. And it was a double sink, and both of them were rotted out in the bottom. And they put pans in the big gaping holes so they could catch water and do dishes and whatever, but it was just rotted out. Within 2 days, we had it replaced and new formica on that, just because of people who had a sink, people who did formica, people in the war. It's a wonderful thing to see. And they had that all done up, and it was just really fast and really good. I tell you, it is a marvelous thing to know when you are a servant of the Lord. It's fun to know when He's inspired you and you do something that He's asked you to do. It's a pleasure, and I promise you that anybody that does His work and has got the guts to do it, when He inspires you to do so, you will see miracles, lots of miracles. From then on, every time anything happened, they called me, and I got to where I had to become a fix-it man. But it was worth it. They were wonderful, wonderful old people, and I enjoyed them very much.